Are you raising a son? Do you want him to grow up to be a good man, a great man, a man he was born to become? If you already know and would like to maybe tweak what you're teaching him just a little bit, or if you are just not sure and want to know more, then this is a must show for you. Stay tuned. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us on the Father Show. And I'm your host, Mike Thompson. Before I go any further, if you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and subscribe and hit that notification bell so that way, whenever we have a new show, you'll know it and you can watch the new show that we have virtually every Tuesday. So today, we have a great guest for you. We have a Ted Braude, known as the Boys Whisperer. He directs the Boys Works projects for boys to become the men they were born to become. He is an expert on boys. He is a licensed master social worker and a research fellow with the School of Integral Spiritual Psychology. Ted graduated from magna cum laude with a Bachelor of Arts in History from Oakland University. Now, he retired after 37 years of practicing therapy, but he continues to speak, write, and consults on the dynamics of power, conflict, and love, particularly in the development of boys. Ted has written books. He's written articles in the newspaper, magazines, and journals. And he's an author of actually two books, and I know we're going to be talking about at least one of them today. But his main focus is on boys becoming great men. So, ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, please welcome Ted Braude. Ted,
Hi,
how you doing?
I'm doing well enough. Thank you very much.
Good.
Thank you for having me.
I love that saying, you're doing well enough. Like I said, I think I'm going to steal that from you.
Yeah, it's my gift. Take it. Share it with others.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. Now, so we're going to be talking about today, and I really thank you for being on the show. It's, excuse me, it's really my pleasure to have someone with your credentials and someone that's been working with boys and turning into empty men for so long. But today we're going to be talking about fathering the boys, power, conflict, and love. Why don't you explain a little bit about, that title?
Well, the usual understanding of power, right out of the dictionary, is the ability to control and dominate a person, place, or event.
Mm-hmm.
And that understanding is so embedded that it's actually embodied into our beings. We not just feel it, it's there, and we act out of that.
Mm-hmm.
We act from it. And conflict is generally understood as a contest between at least two people, with winners and losers. And love is generally understood as warmth and affection for person, place, memory, all kinds of things like that. And what I learned over the years is, albeit that those are true definitions, they're the definitions of power, conflict, and love at the most fundamental level. When I'm speaking of fundamental, is that human beings, boys, girls, we're all meant to evolve and develop over time. I have a 3-year-old granddaughter. I've been watching her change since she was born. We are intended to become better as time goes on. And power, conflict, and love have more to their more qualities than those basic fundamentals. And power, developmentally, as I've come to understand it from boys going into manhood, is the ability to not control and dominate someone else, but it's the ability to manage oneself. In a sense, not really control, but to develop in such a way that you can manage and your own impulses, your own urges, your own feelings. And by controlling, I'm not referring to repressing them, but to be able to be engaged with them internally in a way that you can make choices where you're actually freer in terms of how you will act. So that's a more developed definition of power. And conflict is where two or more energies come together, creating the possibility for something new and different to occur. This happens in nature all the time. We're part of nature. And there's an alternative to every conflict being a win-lose situation. There are the alternatives of what's become known as win-win situations. Again, where the energies coming together and the friction creates the opportunity for something new and different to occur, for an evolution to happen. And love is, yes, it's warmth and affection in the face of conflict and power, experienced the way I've just described fundamentally, they go right out the window. Within warmth and affection of love is the element, I think maybe the most natural element of love is a creative force in the world. So all of that has a bearing in terms of fathering sons. It has a bearing in terms of all human relationships.
And now, would you say that? Now, I know, and I really want to touch on this a little bit later. Usually boys change a little bit, especially when they start getting into that teen year to 18. They want to express their dominance and their manhood. And I have told a lot of women, because you hear a lot of women say, "Oh, I can raise a child of my own." I say, "Yeah, that's true, but it's not necessarily good for the child." And I guarantee you that boy is he's going to be smelling himself, as my parents used to say, by the time he turned 13 or 14 or 15. But when do you think that, in your when do boys really start building on that power, love, and conflict, or learning how to deal with those three elements?
Okay. So I want to start by saying, like, come to understand, I can describe boys in two ways: play and strength.
Mm-hmm.
All boys want to play, and all boys want to be small. And much as I said earlier, play and strength, those qualities are meant to evolve and develop over time. And as the boy is moving into manhood, into middle age, adulthood, each of those phases and many phases within it, those qualities of play and strength are meant to evolve and develop to become more beautiful. And not just for the boy, but for the sake of the whole world. More beautiful, more effective, more in service.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So there's a big picture frame. Power, conflict, and love are present in boys from the get-go. Because especially with little boys, everything is a game. Everything is a game. Okay. And the way they understand games is that every game has a win-lose to it. There ain't no difference. There's winning, there's losing. Little guys still, because they're in the world of play, and winning is strong and losing is weak. They don't like to lose, but they're so into game and playing that they'll switch to a new game or start another version of the same game right away. So they don't get as as hung up on only being able to win. But I want you to know that these elements are there they're there from the get-go. And Mike, they are very, very subtle.
Mm-hmm.
Because the worldview of a boy, let's say a 6-year-old boy, just pick an age, is really different from the worldview of an adult. Okay, so what I want to convey is that he's 6 years old. He's been in his family since the get-go, and he has absorbed the personalities of the adults. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say the fathers, because
Right.
the fathers know he's absorbed. And he knows how his dad operates inside and out. He can feel it, even if he can't articulate it in words. He can feel it.
Yeah.
And he'll have an idea of what responses his dad will have in any given situation, pretty much. Right. And when the boy does X and the dad does Y, and that's repeated, then the boy's worldview is when he does X and dad does Y, he's controlling dad. Now, dad's not going to have the same worldview, believe me. But that's not the worldview of the boy, because dad's following the boy's lead. The boy, he's 6 years old. His world is pretty much, it's about him. If you go even younger, it's even more about him.
Yeah, because, one thing I always try to tell parents that kids or babies even are smarter than you really give them credit for.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they know how to get to you.
Well, because they've been studying you since they were born.
Right.
And I don't even think studying like you're studying a book, because they're absorbing everyone and everything that's going around them, and that becomes their internal worldview.
Mm-hmm.
And parents, grandparents, we all do this. We repeat things. We act out of patterns. He absorbs those patterns. He's part of it. And because he does this and dad does that, his worldview is dad's following his lead. The boy is the Pied Piper.
Mm.
Okay? And if he knows, okay, he does this and dad gets a little hot under the collar about it, the boy's feeling, woo, man, I got the power to get a little heat going in dad or mom or whatever, woo, and because he's in this win-lose thing, he's going, oh, I'm winning. Now, that doesn't mean he always likes the outcome, because, more elements come into play, which we'll probably get into soon, because it's about fathers and sons. But
Mm-hmm.
I want to say that about his worldview. So now, coming to your question about, the boys when they start smelling themselves.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So there's a number of things going on there. He's definitely smelling himself. And he's ready for something new and different to happen in his relationship with the adults, especially mom and especially dad, than what was going on when he was a younger boy.
Okay.
Because he's not the same person. The family's meant to evolve and develop through these stages all together. Okay? He's not the same person he was at 13 or 14. He's not the same as he was at 6 years old. I'll tell you this. By 8 years old, every boy's known everything there is to learn about a win-lose game. Everything. There's nothing new to learn. Now, he may play until he's 75, but there's nothing new to learn. When he's smelling himself, he's looking for something new and different to happen. Okay? And when he's, strutting his stuff, or even if he's kind of pulling back and drawing people in his direction, he's looking to be treated differently.
Okay.
He's actually looking to be treated more like a young man. But because he's a boy and he hasn't learned and developed how to get from win-lose, from power being control and domination, and conflict being win and lose, that's the only game he knows how to play. And what he needs is the adults, mom, dad, to be able to engage with him outside of that dimension.
So would you say that a parent should be unpredictable in how they respond? Don't respond the same way all the time.
In a sense, yes. Particularly this age we're talking about, because I've already described how the familiar pattern's in place. So I've always coaching, really, consulting with parents, saying, you begin with the physical, because boys are more focused on the physical than they are on the verbal. And the adults are always talking away. Okay.
Okay.
And if the normal physical distance in talking to the boy or relating to the boy is like this, change it up. Step back a little bit. Step to the side a little bit. Maybe even step a little closer, because that's changing the pattern, and it's conveying to the boy, without us even being aware of it, that something new and different is going on, and the boy's not in control of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to wake up his attention. Okay. And the mistake that parents make a lot, though, is that they're doing these like as a technique to try to get something different to happen with him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is sort of a control method, and they're going to go south real fast, because boys have BS detectors that are just amazing. Amazing. And what they'll do is okay, so you've done something different, and I'm going to do this, see if I can pull you back in. And if they seduce the adult back into the old pattern, the boy goes, gotcha. You stink.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be authentic in that what the adult, let's say it's, the dad, what the dad is doing is making an authentic change inside of himself. A real change. Okay. Because that's what the boy is going to respond to, because what the boy is developmentally ready is for a real change in himself. Okay.
Okay.
And when he experiences his dad being authentically different, he's authentically not engaging in, I'm going to defeat you, son. I'm going to compete and I'm going to win. That what I'm going to do is manage myself and hold a good, positive, grounded, centered balance. Okay. And I know how to play this win-lose thing. So the probability of it being win-win goes up a lot. Then that wakes up in the boy his own capacity to be able to do that.
Okay.
If he's engaged with a grown-up who continues to play a win-lose game, the boy's not going to go past it. So that's you want to change it up, and you want to change it based on what you know is the best thing for you to do to maintain your own sense of balance. And in fact, if you feel like you're going to lose your crap, you're going to lose it, you back out of the situation. Not because you're losing, but because you're demonstrating your capacity as an adult to manage yourself instead of losing. Okay?
So when you're talking losing, when you're talking about like losing your anger, you're losing in the situation, because I know generally when men get upset or we feel like we're losing, we get angry and we want to push a little harder. And so you push me, so I'm going to push you. But if we can switch that up a little bit and learn a different technique to handle the situation and know how to control our anger. Yeah. Because one thing I do know that our kids are watching us, and you mentioned it earlier. They are watching us. They're learning from us. The things that they know is not something that they were born with. These are techniques that they know.
That's true.
So
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
All right. So, yes, everything said about, we feel as men, we feel pushed. The instinctive response is fight, flight, or freeze. And for most of us, it's push back. Mm-hmm. If you and I were in the same room, we would be doing a little physical demonstration. Imagine, Mike, okay, so you imagine I've come up and I push you on the shoulder. Mm-hmm. What do you feel like doing?
Yeah, I'm going to push you.
You're going to push me back. Right?
You might do one hand, I'm going to do two.
Yeah, you're going to up it, right? Yeah. So, and that's that conflict is a contest with winners and losers, period, right there, okay? Now, and as I said, the boy's got it down by the time he's 8 years old. He's ready to go on to something different. So as men, it's learning what our own capacity to not see everything as a win-lose situation. Mm-hmm. In fact, what the boys are actually doing, the boys that are smelling themselves, they're actually agents of change. They're perceived most of the time by the grown-ups as being a problem, and you got to fix them and get them to do something. Mm. And the minute you're even thinking about getting them to do something, you've lost. Because they're going to, that intention to get them to do something, that's a push. Mm-hmm. There's a force to that. It's invisible. but there's a force to that. And the boy is going to feel, because he's already been practicing since, the get-go, win-lose, he's going to figure out how he's going to win one way or another.
Now, is that the same philosophy that they have when they're past 18, going into adulthood?
So to get 18, the age of emancipation, the boys want and need to feel in their body a sense of who he is, confidence that is not dependent on other people, and a confidence that is based on his ability to manage himself. Mm-hmm. Because, right. If I'm working with an 18-year-old boy, right, and I can trigger him, what kind of confidence does he have?
Yeah.
But if he's developed that I go to trigger him and he kind of steps back and laughs or puts his arm around me, says, "Oh, that was cute, Ted. Nice try." Okay. Then he is more ready to be in the real world as a young man than otherwise. And he'll feel the difference. And that, it isn't that we lose the capacity to compete and to play win, lose. It's part of our repertoire, but it's not our only repertoire. So for the fathers and for the men to learn, when the boy goes, he's pushing, to see that as an invitation to engage with him, I'll call it creatively, with love as a creative force. Okay? Mm-hmm. And so let's switch it up. The boy's pushing on the dad. What's he doing? He's not taking the garbage out. One of the things that drives fathers crazy,
Okay.
Take the garbage out. I'll do it in a little while. Dad comes back. I said, take the garbage out. I said I'd do it. Okay. So he doesn't even tell him to take the garbage out because the boy already knows he's got to take the garbage out. If he's 14 years old, he's not stupid. Mm-hmm. He already knows it's garbage. So you go and tell him something he already knows. Game's afoot. Let's see if I can. The game's called Drive Dad Crazy. The game's called Push Dad's Button.
And this would really still be the same if you're a single mother and you're raising a son, would it not?
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. I've worked with, lots and lots and lots of women come and hear me talk about boys because they need to understand, and they not only need to, they really want to. And when they learn, one of the first things they learn is to talk less. Talk less. And it just talk less, create this little bit of space, and the boys turn into like little puppies.
Yeah. And that's generally what a man is going to do anyway. He's going to talk less. So she's kind of fitting into the father role in a sense.
She learns that her words to the boy, every word is a unit of love. It's like a $10 bill. And that's what the boy wants, is units of love, attention. Doesn't care what kind, prefers good, but either way it's okay. And he gets it for just being himself, meaning he's getting it for free. Mm-hmm. She's getting nothing out of the deal. Okay. Now, when she understands that the boy wants her love and is very connected to her, and she's discerning about distributing it, the boy responds to that very positively.
Yeah. So,
go ahead, Mike.
I was just going to ask, how can we get more men to exhibit that love for the boys? Because we that boys need love.
Oh yeah, big time.
And a lot of times while I'm sorry to cut you off, but a lot of times while they're angry, and when their dad is not in their life, is because they're not getting that kind of love from the father. Would you say? From the father and from other men? Because I want to say, when the boy starts smelling himself, the father has a very important role. Absolutely.
The boy almost every time needs other men besides the father. Yeah. Fathering, when a boy starts smelling himself, becomes more of a community event than it is before then.
Okay.
So, but your question is a great question. And the first thing for the father to do is to tame his own orientation to everything is win-lose. And I have to compete, and I have to win, and I have to dominate him. And to understand that he can attract the boy's respect by how he's managing himself and how he's treating himself respectfully in other people. And I've had a lot of fathers say, well, I respected my dad, when I'm speaking, and I'll say, well, tell me about it. And every time the man's describing being afraid of his father. And every time I say to him, I understand what you're talking about. I kind of lived with a lot of that myself growing up. That's not respect, that's fear. They're not the same thing. And that was a wake up. Yeah. So Father, respect himself and respect that this boy, this son, is wanting to feel the father's own warmth and affection. He doesn't have to coddle him, but to feel inside his own body, his own heart and soul, this is my boy, and I love him. The boy's going to feel that. And the father can do that pretty silently. Another way the father can do it is doing activities with the boy. When the boy's real little, if the father's like washing the car or whatever, and the boy comes hanging out, don't tell him to go do something. Just let him, do it with you. You don't have to do a whole lot of talking. Just do it together. And then I found, boys are into things and the fathers aren't into it. Just go hang out and find out more about. I'm not a video game player at all, zero. But the boys love the stuff. And so, and I have boys that they wouldn't talk to save their lives. And I ask them about the video game they're playing. They don't shut up. I don't care about the video game, but I care about the boy.
Yeah.
I care about his world. And then the boy feels that because they're really steeped in their feelings, even though they don't tend to articulate it. They're aware of, you ask a boy what he's feeling, he's going, I don't know. But if you ask him what's going on in his body, he'll be able to tell you.
Yeah.
The same thing with a man. You ask him what he's feeling, sometimes you go, I don't know. But you ask him what's going on in your body, he'll be able to tell you. So the fathers can convey that warmth and love by first and foremost checking in with themselves and feeling it. And when their boys just even pass in the room, turn it on like a light switch. Hey man, that's it. Turn it on. Boy looks at him like, turn it on. Sitting at the dinner table, you don't turn it on. Look at him. Smile at him. Nod your head just like you're doing. Pay attention. You don't have to say a whole lot. Yeah. The boy starts talking. You don't have to say a whole lot. Just listen to him with your heart open, because he's important to you. At fathers' conferences, I get that question. Dad will say, I have a hard time feeling love for my boy because there's this friction. There's this competition. I'll say, imagine him really sick or dying. And I've watched dads just break into tears. It's there. It's there. Feel it.
And that's a good point.
You feel it. The boy's going to feel it.
Yeah.
They're like Stradivarius violins. They're just, whatever the vibration is, they're picking it up.
And do you think that, babies, because my wife and I was watching a program and I said, you notice when parents argue, even an infant child will start crying.
Oh, yeah.
Because they can feel that vibration in the room.
And they have no filters. Yeah. I describe to parents, you want to understand what's going on with a boy, pay attention to his movements, what he's doing bodily. Often with that kind of tension going on, the boy will start moving around a lot or he'll withdraw. And he'll be communicating bodily, something's going on. Something's going on. Another way for the boy to feel loved, when the boy starts talking, well, I guess I said this really. The boy starts talking, don't start talking. Listen.
Yeah, just listen.
Yeah. Look at him. Pay attention. He'll feel it. He'll feel it. And when he does, the bond that's already there starts weaving stronger. And again, it's not strong like a board that you can break in karate. It's strong like a willow tree that's moving with the wind and can adapt. It's resilience that way. Okay. And the boy's going to want more of it. And then for the dad, give more. You know why? Think of it. You're investing in love. One of the hardest things for me to do when I was working as a therapist, Mike, was working with men who had retired and their kids don't come around to see them.
Yeah.
Because of what happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the beautiful is when they do, because they want to be with them.
Hmm. And that's a great point. I mean, we really want to spend time with our kids, and especially after they get older and they say they go off to college or after college, and you have limited time with them anyway.
Yeah.
So now you have to start kind of capturing those moments when you can. Maybe it's over the holidays, or maybe it's for a birthday or something like that.
Yes. I do want to say, even in relationships that are troubled, when the boy's young and the family's together, you last week, you did a lot of talking about stress.
Hmm.
That there is the opportunity for the relationship as the boy becomes a young man and an adult for things to get better, because there's always this potential for development and evolution. I want to say, because that's important. A lot of fathers can feel like they didn't do the investing, and so there's nothing to draw on. And there are times when that's true, but there are lots of times when repair can be done and development can happen. And my dad and I didn't have what you'd call the best of, there was difficulties,
Hmm.
but in my middle age, things took a turn for the better, much
Good,
better,
good.
and it's doable. So I want to say that it's not hopeless for fathers who might be thinking, "Oh, I
So,
didn't do what Braude talked about, so I'm screwed."
so just keep trying.
And keep feeling the love and the invitation, and there might be there's a good chance there'll be some downs to it,
Hmm.
but
Absolutely.
stay with it. If
Yeah.
perseverance is valuable,
Now, you
especially it's
wrote a
not.
book, and one that I think this is your latest one, How Boys Become Men and Transforming Dragon Spirits into Courageous Hearts. Can you tell the audience a little bit more about that particular book?
Yeah. So the title comes from the dragon spirit, is a metaphor that's drawn a bit from The Hobbit, where the dwarfs were referring in The Hobbit that the dragon had all the gold and jewels from them and couldn't do anything with it. And said something like, dragons are dangerous whether they're awake or asleep. And I thought it was a fitting description of teenage boys. So the book is really about the world of boys, and it was originally directed towards parents of teenage boys, but I found lots of parents of preteen boys are using it, have come to listen to me, and not just parents are using it, but professionals are using it, therapists are using it, teachers are using it, school administrators are using it. And in it, I give the world of teenage boys, and I call it Knowledge of the Beast. Write about power, conflict, and love, like I've described here, how to put it into practice very specifically in terms of bodily, inside space, outside space, um, and then how to speak, and then what to say. And then the last section is called Purpose, Mission, and Dreams, which is really about addressing and connecting with the soul of the boy, because every boy, the phrase is the man he was born to become, is born with an inner genius, his own inner guide, his own inner spiritual guide, and has a destiny to unfold. And when, as grown-ups, we connect with that, and they display it sometimes very cautiously, sometimes pretty invisibly, but when we do connect with that, and beautiful, strong, great things happen. So the last section of the book is Purpose, Mission, and Dreams.
Hmm. Well, that's great. I think I'm gonna definitely have to get me a copy of that, even though my kids are grown. But I have learned and watch the interaction, how it's different. Being because my two youngest boys are in their they're 24, uh, and I've noticed how we interact differently and how they respond to me differently. And it's really amazing. I'm enjoying the heck out of it.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So, how can they get a hold of this book? Where can they find it?
They can put www.howboysbecomemen will take them right to the spot on the Boys Work website where they can get it.
Okay.
Very simple, and I'll send them one. They can find me there as well, or they can email me, Ted, at boysworkproject.com.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I have that information right there underneath you so they can find it. So, but Ted, that's fantastic. I mean, you really have brought some great information to the show. But I do have another question I want to ask, and I hope you don't mind we go over a little bit. But what does this discussion that we've had today, how does that work with girls, daughters, and mothers?
Great question. So I've raised 2 daughters, ironically. And I've had lots of mothers and fathers come up and say, well, this is all really valuable with the girls also. So I want to say 2 things about it. Over the past 20 years, maybe more, as there's been a growing emphasis on girls and their development, mm-hmm. A lot of what have been considered typical traditional characteristics with boys in terms of competition, in terms of fight and play and so forth, have been showing up more frequently with girls.
Okay.
So that's one way that parents have been, and other adults, using the principles and practices and the knowledge that I've been offering in relationship to girls, and having wonderful results. Girls and boys are both people. The qualities of masculine and femininity show up in both males and females in various forms of distribution. Okay. So it's very, very useful.
Okay. So if the audience wanted to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
If they have access to email, the simplest way is Ted at boysworkproject.com. If they prefer to phone, the phone number is 586-825-6483. That's the number to the Boys Work Project.
Okay. And you don't have a problem with me putting that on the screen as well, your number? Okay. No. All right. So that will be available on the screen. So if you didn't quite catch it, 1, you can rewind and hear it again. 2, I'm going to put it up here on the screen so you'll be able to see it. So don't worry about it. But Ted, I want to thank you so much for being on the show today. It has been a pleasure. You have definitely brought a slew of great information on how we can raise our boys, and something that not just the fathers can use, but the mothers can use as well. So I want to thank you really very, very much for this. And I look forward to hopefully having you back on the show again.
I'd be glad to come, Mike, and you're very welcome. Thank you very much for inviting me. I had a wonderful time.
All right. Well, Ted, thank you. And I'm going to close out the show. But ladies and gentlemen, that is our show for today. I want to thank you for joining us here on the Father Show. And like I said, I'm your host, Mike Thompson, and I'm here every week. We have a show that we upload every week on Tuesdays, and usually Tuesday morning, so you can always catch it. But I tell you what, another easy way is to subscribe to the show on our YouTube channel, which is The Father Show with Mike Thompson, and click that subscribe button. Don't forget to hit that notification bell, and that way you'll get notified of every show that we have and when we have it. But I want to thank Ted Braude from Boys Works Project for joining us today. It definitely has been a pleasant surprise and a pleasant guest to have with a plethora of information. And if you are looking for resources that can help you, additional resources, go to the Father Show with Mike Thompson.com and click on resources, and there you will find resources. We're generating resources for every state. So there you can find resources like attorneys, counselors, therapists, fatherhood programs, and so forth that can help you in your day-to-day life. It's free. Just want to put that out there. It don't cost you anything. There's no cookies on our website, so we don't even know you were there. The purpose of it is for you to get the help that you need and want when you want it, when you need it, without any interference from anybody else. So if you want to watch this show and other shows, you can catch us on our YouTube page, on our Facebook page, and you can also catch us on LinkedIn. Now, we also have a video version of our audio version, on LinkedIn, Twitter, Spotify, Amazon Music and Audible, Pandora, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and Alexia, Stitcher, and other apps. So I want to thank you again for joining us here on the Father Show. And I really look forward to seeing you next week. So until then, I want to tell you, stay safe, God bless, and have a fantastic week.